Welcome to Bad at Goodbyes. Each week on our show, we spotlight species from the IUCN Critically Endangered Red List. These are plants and animals with decreasing populations, nearing the edges of extinction. We'll share species research, information, and conservation proposals, and then we'll spend part of the show opening a space for contemplation and awe. We'll perform a soundscape of gentleness, of reflection, of delight, and maybe of grieving. Without conservation activity and significant societal shift, many of these species may not survive the 21st century. And so perhaps we might acknowledge their journey with a moment of our attention, a recognition of our kinship, with a commitment to personal and systemic change. Thank you for listening. On today's show, we consider the Cork Palm. The cork palm is a critically endangered tree native to the island of Cuba in the Caribbean Sea. Its scientific name is Microcycas calocoma, and it was first described in 1868. Cork palm is an arborescent cycad. Arborescent means tree-like. It's a term to loosely describe the visual growth form of a plant. And cycads are an absolutely ancient class of plants. We have fossil evidence of cycads from the early Permian period, roughly 280 million years ago. So this is the time of supercontinent Pangaea, and this predates the dinosaurs. There were cycads before there were dinosaurs. And in fact, you and I are closer in time to, say, T-Rex or Triceratops than those dinosaurs were to the earliest cycads by about 100 million years. So the cycads have this long lineage, hundreds of millions of years of successful reproduction and slow evolution, and are still relatively abundant today globally. Some cycad species are very common houseplants. But our cork palm, our subject today, is not common. And it is not a palm. Cycads and palms, though they appear to share cursory physical attributes and similar adaptations, are totally genetically unrelated. So this is a case of what is called convergent evolution. Convergent evolution is when species evolve similar features or behaviors, but do not share a genetic lineage. They've independently evolved similar traits rather than inheriting them from a common ancestor. like how birds, bats, and insects all evolved wings for flight independently. Or how cacti, native to the Americas, and euphorbias, native to Africa, both independently evolved sharp spines. So too with cycads and palms, who often both have feathery, frond-like leaves and a single cylindrical unbranched trunk. This is convergent evolution, habitat pressure leading to similar adaptations, but in wholly distinct genetic lineages. And so our cork palm, though it is not a palm, does kind of look like one. It's a small tree that can reach roughly 30 feet in height, with a thick, straight trunk that can grow up to 2 feet in diameter. It generally does not branch, and the frond-like leaves emerge from the top of the trunk, creating a crown of foliage. As new leaves develop, they push the older leaves downward. And as older leaves wither and fall off, their leaf base persists. This is the tissue that connects the leaves to the trunk. That remains attached, helping protect the trunk from damage and water loss, and it gives the cork palm's bark a textured appearance. The leaves themselves are green and frond-like, divided into long, drooping, leathery leaflets that are narrow and taper to a pointed tip. The cork palm's leaflets can grow to a foot long, but are less than an inch wide, with an entire margin, meaning the leaf edges are smooth. The cork palm is cone-bearing and dioecious, meaning that individual plants are either male or female. Male individuals produce pollen cones, female individuals produce seed cones. The male cones are yellowish-brown and covered in fine hairs and are quite large, growing up to 1.5 feet in length. The female cones are even larger and more oval-shaped than the male cones. They can reach lengths of up to 3 feet with diameters of 5 to 6 inches. Female cones are also yellowish-brown, but have a more velvety texture. Initial cone growth begins in May, and it takes about 4 months for the cones to fully develop, with pollination occurring in roughly September-October. Biologists have found evidence that suggests the cork palm is primarily pollinated by a small beetle species, which feeds on the pollen and also mates within the protection of the cones. Once pollination occurs, the seeds within the female cones begin to develop. Seeds of the cork palm are relatively large, typically around 1.5 inches long and 1 inch in diameter, and they have a fleshy outer layer called the sarcotesta, which is initially green but turns pinkish red as the seeds mature. The sarcotesta is a kind of protective layer around the developing seed that aids in water retention and nutrient storage. Imagine a pomegranate seed. The soft, red, tasty bit is the Sarcotesta. In my research, I could not find direct observation of how the cork palm's seeds are dispersed, though we can make some confident hypotheses. The nutrient-rich and bright red Sarcotesta likely attracts birds, who would feed on the fleshy bits and then distribute the seeds in their excrement. Additionally, cork palm are often found in clusters, with many trees in a stand sharing some lineage. So this suggests that the seeds are also distributed by gravity. Mature seeds released from the cones simply fall to the ground, not far from their parent plant. So our best guess is that cork palm seeds are dispersed by zoochory, that's by animals, and by barochory, that's by gravity. The cork palm is slow growing and slow to mature. After germination, seedlings will take 17 years or more to produce their first cones. The cork palm is believed to live up to several hundred years old. In the dream, 1,000,000 generations to seed and grow and cone and seed and grow and cone and seed, the long flickering flame of life ever lit across impossible timescales through unfathomable change. The kind of hope tucked into sweet Sarcotesta, an enduring promise, a persistent standing guard over shifting lands, a living remembrance of forevers. Seed and grow and cone and seed, still today. And let's hope, still for innumerable tomorrows. In the dream. The cork palm is native to western Cuba, to roughly 6 populations within the province of Pinar del Rio. This is a bioregion of tropical forests in a landscape shaped by erosion, creating caves, sinkholes, and underground streams. These are rugged, steep slopes of limestone hills with patches of forest and areas of exposed rock and scrubby vegetation. This is verdant yet stony terrain where pockets of plant life cling to the rocky hillsides. The climate is tropical with distinct wet and dry seasons. Summer temperatures can crest 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and winter temps rarely fall below 60 degrees. The region receives an average annual rainfall of roughly 40 inches, with the majority of that precipitation occurring during the wet season from May to October. It is a substantial swing between the wet and dry seasons, with, for example, June seeing over 10 days of rain and December only seeing 1. The cork palm shares its tropical island home with Cuban green anole, summer tanager, tropical palm, Cuban solitaire, pitch apple, Cuban solenodon, sicklebush, Cuban tree frog, madre de cacao, Cuban trogon, Cuban crocodile, mountain palm, Singapore white, Cuban bullfinch, macho palm, blue maho, butterfly pea, white ginger, and many, many more. The primary cause of the historic population decrease of the cork palm is anthropogenic, that's human-caused, habitat destruction, and fragmentation. I think we likely have an idea of what habitat destruction means, but I realize that we use the term habitat fragmentation on this show regularly and have never really unpacked it. So, habitat fragmentation. Imagine a tree species that relies on the wind for seed dispersal. Fertilized seeds are blown away from the parent plant and, ideally, find purchase in viable soil to then germinate and sprout. Now imagine a 4-lane highway is built near our tree. On one side of the highway is the tree, and on the other side is viable habitat, good soil. The wind-dispersed seeds can no longer reach that soil. They fall fallow on the concrete. And so the tree's habitat has not been wholly destroyed, but it is now fragmented. Or imagine a bird species that lives in a ring of forest around a field. And let's say they attract mates with their call. And then let's say we build a factory in that field between the forests. And let's even imagine that we are thoughtful about it. We do not knock down a single tree, and we build a low structure, knowing that this is an avian flight path. And yet, the noise from the factory machinery prevents the birds from hearing one another's mating calls. And so, even though we haven't directly destroyed habitat, nor created like a true physical barrier, we have fragmented that habitat and imperiled the bird's reproduction. And so in the case of our cork palm, agricultural clearing, habitat destruction, and the construction of road and highway systems are the source of habitat fragmentation. Today, the cork palm continues to face a threat in reduction of habitat, particularly for tobacco growing. And additionally, the poaching of individuals from the wild is an ongoing threat. Fortunately, the cork palm is legally protected, locally by the provincial and federal Cuban government, and also internationally. The majority of its population is found in protected wildernesses within the Vinales National Park. And yet, as mentioned, a continuing threat to the cork palm is the poaching of wild individuals from this public land for illegal sale on the black market. Cork palm is highly sought after as an ornamental tree in exotic gardens for both its beauty and its rarity. And so about 15 years ago, responding to this threat, horticulturists at the Montgomery Botanical Center in Miami, Florida, initiated an intensive cultivation and seed distribution program for the cork palm. They essentially flooded the market with viable seeds. This increased supply led directly to a steady decline in the price per seed, reducing the perceived rarity of the species and disincentivizing illegal wild collection. Additionally, there are robust off-site cultivation efforts occurring at botanical gardens globally and in Cuba. And on-site, within the species habitat, Cuban researchers continue to conduct fieldwork to locate previously undocumented populations and monitor their status. Nevertheless, the cork palm has been considered critically endangered on the IUCN Red List since 2003, and their population is currently in decline. Our most recent counts estimate that less than 250 cork palm remain in the wild. Information for today's show about the cork palm was compiled from Biochemical Systematics and Ecology, Volume 37, Issue 4, from the Botanical Gazette, Volume 44, Number 2, and Volume 47, Number 2, from the Botanical Journal of the Linnaean Society, Volume 125, Issue 3, from the IUCN, from the CICAD Newsletter, Volume 14, Number 2, from Hort Technology, Volume 21, from Insecta Mundi, Volume 70, and from Wikipedia. And so now I would like to perform some music in hopes of making space to be in contemplation of the other lives with whom we share our earth. I do not intend to put meaning upon or extract meaning from the cork palm. Instead, I want this music to simply express my awe at other life. And so I will sit in the space of sound and reflection, and I warmly invite you to join me. I honor the life force of the Cork Palm. I will commit its name to my record. I am grateful to have shared time on our planet with this wildly ancient being I lament the ways in which I and my species have harmed and diminished this species. I grieve. And so in the name of the Cork Palm, I pledge to reduce my consumption, my carbon footprint, and my wastefulness. I pledge to acknowledge and attempt to address the costs of both my actions and my inaction. And I pledge to resist the harm of any plant or animal kin and their habitat by individuals, corporations, and governments. I forever pledge my song to the witness and memory of all life, to a broad celebration of biodiversity, and to the total liberation of all beings. This has been Bad at Goodbyes. Thank you for listening. Until next time, let's take care of each other and all of our kin.